One of my favorite things about working in the fountain pen industry is the passion that we see for these products. What makes analog niche markets like ours particularly unique, though, is that the biggest pen brands are equally as passionate about the pens as their customers are. I've talked about German pens and I've covered Japanese pens in previous videos, and yes, absolutely there is a ton of passion, tradition, and a crazy amount of dedication and commitment there. However, there's another country that leaves them in the dust when it comes to wild, unbridled passion, and that's Italy. Today I'm going to show you 5 pens from Italian manufacturers, and this is not a 5 best Italian pens list, but rather pens that if I were sitting across the table from you, I would slide over to you and say, you should try this one, for reasons that I will get into now. Iniziamo. Okay, you knew this was coming, so let's go. It's the Visconti Homo Sapiens, specifically in its Bronze Age version. Now, I can say with confidence that this is the most popular pen coming out of Italy right now. It's been that way for years, and it's not looking like it's going to change anytime soon. Why is this so popular? It might seem a little surprising considering that this pen is currently $716. The main attraction of this Florentine pen is the fact that it's not made from traditional resin, but from basaltic lava. Visconti acquires that rock from Mount Etna in Sicily, mixes it with resin to create one of the most unique sensory experiences on the market. It's incredibly durable, but it has a warmth and a softness that's been alluring to fountain pen enthusiasts for nearly 20 years now, making it one of the most common grail pens for many writers. In addition to the material, the Visconti Homo Sapiens has a beautiful 18-karat gold nib and Visconti's power filler system, which uses vacuum pressure to fill the pen in a single press, though you do get more ink in there if you do it a few times. Now, the Homo Sapiens is available in several different versions, but this is the version I want you to try. In all the time it's been popular, it remains the only mass-produced pen made from this incredible material. And the odds are you're already curious about this one. So, the next Italian export I think you should check out comes from Scribo. Located in Bologna, Scribo is led by Luca Baglione, formerly of the brand Omos. Now, that brand has long since been scattered to the winds, but as far as its original manufacturing equipment goes, well, Luca and some other former Omos team members still have possession of it, and they're now using it to make Scribo pens, and just as important, Scribo nibs. The machines that made the highly regarded Omos Flex nibs are now cranking out their current Flex nibs, and that is why I want you to try out one of these pens. Now, any Scribo pen is a fun experience. The fit and finish on these pens is solid, and overall, it is a brand that I would highly recommend. But it's not every day that you get to experience a European Flex nib with this level of care and consistency put into it. Flex nibs are a hard thing to get right. While these aren't made to be flexed to the extremes as, say, a Magna Carta Magnaflex nib, they can take some downward pressure and produce some reliable and consistent line variation for you. Not only that, but Scribo makes a ton of different nib sizes, both in flexible 14 karat and standard 18 karat gold. So basically, I am passing this over to you because A, I think Scribo should be on your radar just as a brand, and B, I really do think you should check out this Flex nib. The extra fine Flex would be my personal recommendation. Pineider. Now, I almost wanted to say that Pineider is the most Italian of the Italian brands, but that's not exactly true, nor do I have remotely enough insight to say that. What I think is true, though, is that Pineider showcases that unbridled passion that I mentioned before just about more than any other brand. I'd say that Montegrappa definitely takes #1 position there with the most points for wild and crazy pens. But this video, I'm not recommending things for you to look at. No, I am passing this along to you to experience with your hands. So regardless of which Pineider pen it happens to be, I want you to try their Quill nib. This was love at first sight for me. The look of it was immediately and shockingly beautiful, And to this day, I think it's one of, if not the most beautiful nib that is readily available on the market. The imprint is stunning, and the shape itself just begs you to write with it. And I encourage you to do just that. You'll find one of the most comfortable writing experiences is waiting for you there, as the quill nib is bouncy and smooth with every motion. The nib was initially marketed as a flex nib, and while, yeah, you can get some line variation out of it, I don't think that's the wow factor here. I simply want you to enjoy the feel of it in terms of its natural bounce without an intent to flex. If you do that, I think you really will be pleasantly surprised. So there you go. We're going back to Visconti for this next one, and Visconti is a luxury brand, an Italian luxury brand. And when you hear Italian and luxury together, well, the next word isn't going to be affordable. Let's just say that. Pens like Visconti's Homo Sapiens are legendary, iconic, and they can go up past the $1,000 price point. So how can someone own a Italian luxury brand pen if they couldn't spend, $200+? Well, for the longest time, the answer was you can't, or the answer was you can, but it doesn't feel quite like the real deal. But all that changed when the Visconti Mythos was launched, the Mirage Mythos specifically. This $160 pen feels like a legit Visconti. It really does. Let me just start with that. The build, the familiar feel of the resin, everything feels like pens from this brand that sell for 4 times this price. It does indeed lack the option of a gold nib. I mean, it's gold colored, but it's a steel nib. So what Visconti did here was collaborate with the German manufacturer Schmidt to make a nib that is, made in Germany for this pen, merging Italian design with an industry staple German nib. I want you to write with this, because even I doubted at first that Visconti could make a sub $200 pen that wrote well and actually felt like you were holding a Visconti. I think they absolutely did it. But I also think you should see for yourself. While Omos was an Italian brand that got split up, name and materials, building, all that sort of stuff, like Infinity Stones when it closed up, the day Delta shut its doors back in 2007, everything just sort of froze in time. Just outside of Naples, Italy, everything that was once the Delta Pen Company just sat in stasis. In 2023, though, something crazy happened. It woke up. Nino Marino, one of Delta's original founders, was suddenly back at the helm and firing up all the original machines so that he could bring Delta pens back into stores. That sort of thing kind of never happens. Usually when a brand goes out of business, the chances of it coming back just as it was, it's just not a thing. So this was a big deal. And it was exciting to know that a famous pen like Delta's Dolce Vita wasn't going to be lost forever. With Delta's DV Original, the DV standing for Dolce Vita, of course, you get the same specs and manufacturing that made the original Dolce Vita, but this time with a nib made by Jowo in Germany. The old one had a Bach nib. And again, we have a German-made nib on an Italian-made pen, which I love. For this pen, I really wanted you to try the DV Original Oversize, the big one. The obvious reason being that it's a pen that did the impossible by surviving unchanged through a company closure and its subsequent resurrection. Holding it and knowing all of that just gives it a bit of gravity. And speaking of gravity, it's a big pen, which leads me to my second reason for getting it into your hand. I think you might be surprised at just how comfortable it is. Just ask anyone with chronic arthritis or hand pain. Thicker pens are shockingly comfortable, and it surprised me. I love writing with this pen and its gigantic number 8 nib, but I'd love to know what you think. There are many amazing Italian brands that I didn't include on this list, and that's certainly not saying that you shouldn't try them. I just chose pens that I felt had unique elements to experience and elements that I felt personally chatty about. Hopefully it had some value to you, and I sincerely appreciate you joining me today. These pens can all be found on gouletpens.com. Have fun, write on.